Where humans get into trouble is where they say, but now I have defined my experience or my relationship with this stove or whatever, and I want everyone else to have the same experience with it. I want us to join together in clubs and groups, and I want us to express our harmony about the idea. And we will form bands of protesters that will push against those who disagree with us. And eventually, we will sort it out on a world forum, and we will come to one agreement. And we say, why does it have to be that way? Why can it not be individual agreement? And you say, because, and here's the crux of your worry, because I'm but one person with one opinion. And those that do band together in their opinions will run over the top of me. I'm powerless in a world that seeks power. And we say, that is what we are wanting to help you to understand. We want to help you to regain your clarity about your individual power. Everyone has it. No one can ever take it away from you. No one can ever do anything bad to you. No one can assert into your experience. Everything, without exception, comes only by your individual invitation to it. So you say, but Abraham, I would not ask for something that I do not want. And we say, you do it all the time because you do not understand the process of asking. The process of asking is achieving vibrational harmony with something. When you give something your attention and it becomes your dominant vibration relative to the subject, that is your asking. You say, no, I'm asking for well-being. How could not well-being come into my experience? And we say, because you often are not a vibrational match to well-being. You're finding too many things to fuss about. You're finding too many things to be upset about. You're finding too many injustices, too many things that make you feel negative emotion. And the only way that we have ever seen that any of you can use the guidance that you were born with is by making this statement and really meaning it and coming to live it. Nothing is more important than that I feel good. Nothing is more important than that I am consciously aware of the vibrational mix of that which I am giving my attention to. Nothing is more important than that I read the vibration of my being in this moment to know whether it's a life-giving moment or a life-squelching moment, whether it is the allowing of well-being or the disallowing of well-being. So, deliberate creating is not so much about looking out into the world and saying, oh, there are things that are good that I want to create or attract in my experience, and there are things that are bad that I don't want to create or attract into my experience. Deliberate creating is more about deliberate allowing. Deliberate allowing is more like deliberate vibration. Deliberate vibration is more about deliberately feeling good. Deliberately feeling good. Feeling good not because there is a reason to, and not because the president is making the best decision, and not because my body looks exactly what I want it to look, and not because everybody is treating me in the way I think I should be treated, but feeling good because I want so much to feel good that I look only where I feel good when I look. I stop saying to the world, or to my mother, or to my daughter, or to my husband, or to my friend, or to my government, or to anyone, I stop saying, you need to do something different so that I can feel good, which is so disempowering because you know they're not going to. They're not going to do what you want them to do. You can't get big enough. You can't get enough bombs. You can't get enough armies. You can't get enough resources to make them think like you do. Your only path is to want so much to feel good that you train yourself thought by thought, subject by subject, in the direction of what does feel good, so that you allow yourself vibrational alignment with the source and resources and circumstances and events that allow the perfection of your life by your choice to unfold. You are such powerful beings. As we behold you individually, one by one, we say you have as much power as the president of this nation for the controlling of your life experience. In fact, there's not one of you in this room who doesn't have more power than he does right now. The bombardment of ideas, the bombardment of perspectives, the bombardment of information, true and false, that he's receiving, he cannot possibly align with Source under these conditions. You can. So then you say, that's worrying. He's making decisions and he's not aligned with Source. And we say his worldwide influence is minuscule in comparison with the billions of people who are individually requesting from their personal perspective what they desire. Your government is not the vortex through which your well-being flows. The vortex through which your well-being flows is within you. It is vibrationally felt by you. It is, if you're wanting to put your finger on it, it is right in your solar plexus where your emotional center is. And so reclaim it. Make the statement and mean it. Nothing is more important than that I feel good. Thought by thought, moment by moment, I'm going to open my valve and I'm going to let the good times roll. We are eager to talk with you about anything that is important to you. No order of business here, nothing off limits. It will unfold magnificently. You are ready to begin? You are ready to begin. Yes? Then here.
Thank you, Abraham. You mentioned something in a discourse this morning about scientists, and I just mentioned this as a cursory inquiry. Because we have a world in which we think of scarcity, specifically oil, there was an interesting article presented which said that they have a new theory, and that is that petroleum products do not necessarily come from the decomposition of organic matter, but they come from another process, and I'm not sure what they called it, but it seemed to do with pressure on rocks from within the earth.
Which makes them decomposed matter.
And I wanted to ask you, is this theory about the decomposition of organic matter incorrect, or is there another source of oil or production of oil?
There will never be an energy shortage because man will always desire a source of energy. In other words, as long as you are having exposure to experience that makes you want it, you will keep asking for it. And as long as you continue to ask for it, you will find ways to deliver it. The idea that oil is the only or even the primary source of your future energy is one of those short-sighted things that we are talking about, where you sort of get locked into a way of looking at things, and in being so sure that that is the best way, sometimes you miss ways that could come to you even through paths of greater allowance. Your question is a good one in the sense that how did the oil that exists now come about? And we say it is matter that under pressure has become oil. And scientists may even discover that they could apply pressure to matter and create oil. In other words, it does not have to be over such a long period of time. But then they would say that the cost of doing so might be prohibitive. And then that argument will come forth and more desire will be born, and you can sort of get caught in the quagmire of trying to figure out how and where and when and who. Where if you stay focused upon what you want and why you want it, the universal resources will always provide the means to receive it. It's a nice thing to keep reminding yourselves that while you are on the leading edge of thought, you are not the offerers of all new thought. You are the continuing contemplators of thoughts that have been before. Contemplators of thoughts that have been before. And the advantage that that gives to you is that you have the power of the thought that has come before. So your ability to create and engineer and design gets easier and easier and easier. As you have a platform of more inventions, so to speak, the next inventions come more easily because of those that have come before. Not only because the expansion of your ideas grows exponentially, but because your belief in your ability to create grows too. We are not meaning to imply that we do not think your scientists are fantastic and amazing. We think they are doing a remarkable job of delivering the manifestations of creations that are being summoned by mass consciousness. But they could do it faster and with much less stress if they would not need every new idea to mesh with every old idea. The new ideas would be faster in coming.
All right.
Yes.
A curious thing too, I noticed as a younger man, I lived in Newfoundland, and there was an abundance of fish in the ocean there. Codfish was primarily the main staple. And today, visiting there recently, I find that the local people are forbidden by law to fish for cod. That's due to the destruction of the abundance of fish that was there.
For the perceived shortage?
A perceived shortage. And so I was wondering, these are things that we see in our physical reality, and are trying to jive that with abundance.
Well, when we say to you that you are so free in your thinking that you can choose bondage, and you are so free in your thinking in the realm of limitness that you can still limit yourself. Shortage is a perception, and so as you perceive shortage, you create shortage. But it is not a natural consequence of you using up ideas or you using up resource. In the same way that you create abundance, you create shortage.
I don't get it. It seems to me if there aren't any fish to be had, or very few, they're trying to leave what's there to replenish the existing stock, the former stocks. So it seems like it's evident that there is a shortage.
If you were searching the seas and have the ability to search all of the seas and count the fish and tell us that there are fewer today, then we might say that your theory about shortage has been validated by your counting. But when you go to a place where there once were fish and you say there are not fish here now, therefore there is shortage, we say the fish have migrated to a place where there is not a concentrational focus of shortage. In other words, if you are a fish and you are following the inspiration that comes forth from your broader perspective, and your broader perspective says there are no fish here because there is shortage here, you don't go there. We're not kidding you. In other words, there is not a shortage of fish. And so we can feel what you're getting at. You're saying, Abraham, these truths are self-evident. These truths are proven by statistics and by those who count the fishes. This is a truth. How can you say there is no shortage when I have this truth of shortage? And we say, you can pick anything, wanted or not wanted, and make it your truth. Someone can go to a place where there is said to be no fish and find none. Someone can go to the place who does not know that and find a boatload.
Can I tell a fishing story?
You can?
Thank you. So we were up in northern Canada years ago when I used to be a fishing fanatic. And Hank, the guy, an aerialist, and I went out and rented a boat on the lake up there. And we went out and we fished. And first time the lure went out, a fish came up out of the water, like about an 8-pound fish. And down he went to the bottom. And then we landed another. And then we landed another one. Then we landed another one. Oh, and we had the boat so full, we had like this much boat out of the water as we're coming back slowly. Afraid we weren't going to capsize with this boat full of hundreds of pounds of fish. And we got in. The guy that owned the fish dock, he said, "What happened?" I said, "We're just fishing." He said, "How'd you do that?" I said, "We were just using these gypsy daredevils." He said, "But you know," he said, "nobody's caught a fish here all year." He said, "I'm about to go out of business." And he said, "And the only reason I'm staying in business, people don't know you can't catch any fish here." And he says, I knew you weren't going to catch anything, but I wasn't going to tell you. But you guys didn't know you couldn't catch any fish." He said, "Look what you've done." Anyway, it's amazing how that there was no fish in that lake. And so we didn't know there were no fish in that lake, fish there. And then there were a lot of fish. Well, there were less, but we left. But
Sign me up on your next trip.
That is more or less what we were saying.
I like that. Okay.